Want to know why? Ask how. Howard, the humongous. I have a message for Bernie Sanders. Socialism only works when it goes hand in hand with, guess what? Capitalism. When socialism tries to go it alone, it kills entire societies. And I have a message for Donald Trump, Sarah Palin, and Ted Cruz. Capitalism only works when it goes hand in hand with, guess what? Socialism. When capitalism tries to go it alone, capitalism kills those it depends on. It destroys the buying power of customers. It smothers the dedication, the motivation, the creativity of its workers. And without workers and consumers, capitalism goes absolutely nowhere. Socialism is up against a similar problem. Socialism is about how we divvy up the goods. But capitalism produces those goods, which means without capitalism, there's nothing to divvy up. So what happens when you try one of these things, capitalism or communism, totally on their own? It's murderous. When Russia and China tried to operate socialist nations with no capitalism in the 20th century, they killed between them a total of approximately 100 million people. They didn't kill foreigners. They killed their own people. Yes, they killed a lot of foreigners, but that's not counted in this particular total. This is what they just did by taking one of these two elements, socialism, and trying to isolate it from its seeming opposite. Socialism without capitalism was mass murder. On the other side of things, there are no nations I know of that have ever tried pure capitalism with no socialism, but when Republican conservatives seized control and tried to shut down big government and give the markets free rein, they have crashed the economy. They've done that consistently. They did it after the conservatives won a landslide victory in 1873 and totally smashed the economy. A depression. They did it when they were riding high in 1929. They crashed the economy. They did it when they did it again under George Bush in 2007 and 2008. Why these free market catastrophes? To repeat, capitalists depend on customers. And when you impoverish your workers, you have very few customers. That's one of the things that we learned as a society. In 1914, when Henry Ford raised the pay of his workers to a level that was astounding at the time, $5 an hour, twice what the workers had been making. You don't just need people who can manufacture Fords, is what we discovered. You need customers for Fords. Now there's something shocking at work here. Opposites are joined at the hip. You've heard me say that before. Yes, opposites. Good and evil, night and day, socialism and capitalism. One by itself is a poison. Both working together make miracles. When you spot two opposites, never just choose one. Consider choosing them both. And use the two of them together. Use socialism and capitalism together and you get material miracles. The man who knew that best was an arch-conservative, a really heavy-duty conservative, Otto von Bismarck of Germany in 1860 to 1890. Whoops. It was Otto von Bismarck, oh my God, it was Otto von Bismarck who, along with France's Napoleon III, Britain's Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, showed that the genius that shows that genius emerges when you put capitalism and socialism together. Genius. The genius that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump will have to tap, they'll have to use it, they'll have to generate it if we're going to move forward. Otto von Bismarck was the most powerful conservative in Europe from the 1860s to 1890, the period after America's Civil War. Von Bismarck was a nationalist, a jingoist, an expansionist, an imperialist, and once again a flat-out conservative. For example, there's the military aspect. He wasn't just any old militarist. Bismarck was the greatest European militarist of his day. He had dueling scars on his face. He took violence seriously. He could be brutal. He started 3 wars, one with Denmark, one with Austria, and one with France. The one with France, the Franco-Prussian War, killed 774,781 people, 750,000 people, at least 100,000 more than the most brutal, industrialized war humanity had ever seen, the Civil War, just a few years earlier. And he won every single one of his wars. But here's the most important thing. Bismarck knew that opposites are joined at the hip, which means that this flat-out militarist was also Europe's greatest peacemaker. Why? He knew how to balance opposites so they could work together rather than tearing things apart. Bismarck invented something called realpolitik. He balanced enemies against each other. He played balance of power politics so shrewdly that one historian, Erich Hobsbawm, says that Bismarck pulled off a miracle. He single-handedly generated peace between the powers for a total of 20 years, an entire generation. With his Austrian War, Bismarck united Germany, something the German people had longed for since the days of Napoleon 70 years earlier. I've got the arithmetic wrong. It's less than 70 years earlier, 60 years earlier. Bismarck created a German empire, and he made himself, guess what, Chancellor of the empire. And he defanged the nation of Napoleon, the nation that had towered over every single other nation militarily in Europe. But Bismarck's most important secret was balancing capitalism and socialism. He provided the German people with disability and old age pensions, radically new ideas at the time, wild-eyed, liberal, crazy, revolutionary, socialist ideas. And he made sure that the government chipped in money for these welfare schemes. And when it wasn't enough money, he increased the amount of money, big amounts of money. But that was the socialism. So where's the capitalism? Under Otto von Bismarck, Germany, if I can find it here, Germany rose, no, we're missing it. Germany took over 3 new high-tech industrial sectors, brand new ones, on the very cutting edge. And he turned them into capitalist enterprises, steel, electrical goods, and the chemical business. All of these were developed by private companies under Otto von Bismarck. And it was with dominance over these new, next-generation industries, capitalist industries, that Bismarck helped Germany rise to great power status and made the German people rich. So Bismarck advanced the working man, and he advanced the capitalist, all at once. He built socialist safety nets for the working man. He didn't do one or the other. He didn't pick either socialism or capitalism. He did both. That's what Bernie and Trump have to understand. It's not either or, it's both. To be a great power, you need more than just weapons and a disciplined, motivated army. You need a powerful economy. Look, Otto von Bismarck was no starry-eyed, soft-minded idealist. He wanted to remove what he called the siren song of socialism. He said in 1884 that if the state would only, quote, show a little more Christian solicitude for the working men, then the German Marxists, the Social Democrats, would sound their siren song in vain, and his method for defanging the socialists? Graft socialist programs into the state and use them to enhance loyalty and state power, not to mention the power of Germany in the pecking order of nations. Capitalism plus socialism. That was the formula that transformed Germany from a comic opera quilt of principalities into one of the great powers. Capitalism plus socialism. That's the formula that makes Germany the powerhouse of Europe today. It's one of the greatest exporting nations on the face of the planet, despite the economic power of much bigger nations. the USA and China. It's up there punching way above its weight. And that's the formula, capitalism plus socialism, that Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, and even Sarah Palin, with her tiny little mind, have to grasp. It's not capitalism or socialism. It's both. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for that sleazy, slimy little off button. There.